When the Villain Loves You. This video contains the complete unabridged audiobook. After a full day of writing, I decided to take a bath. I had just sunk into the tub when my phone suddenly rang. It was Ethan Reed calling again. We'd broken up months ago, but every now and then he would call me and chat about random things, the weather, daily life, anything really. Acting all casual, but never actually asking to get back together. So I just played dumb too, waiting to see who would hold out longer. But recently, the faucet in my bathroom started leaking. Maybe it was time to let him come fix it. If he did a good job, maybe I'd even consider giving him another shot. Just as I picked up my phone, ready to answer, the air in front of me suddenly split open with a crack. A stranger in a suit tumbled out of the rift and landed right on top of me in the tub. I was frozen in shock, my phone falling with a splash into the water. The man gently rested his head on my shoulder and, in a voice full of longing, said, "I finally found you, Mother." Based on my years of writing experience, this guy had to be a time traveler. But why was he calling me Mom? Was he supposed to be my future son? No way. I could never give birth to someone this handsome. He must have seen the confusion on my face, because he introduced himself. "Mother, I'm Sean Hayes. I'm a full-time writer." Sean Hayes is the main character from one of my novels, Warm Sunlight. I stared at him in disbelief. Those dark, deep eyes, flawless pale skin, sculpted nose, and the muscles outlined beneath his soaked shirt. Every detail was so perfect, almost exaggerated, exactly like a character from a novel. Oh, my God. Never did I think I'd end up meeting my own male lead in the bathtub. Wait, bathtub? That's when I realized I was completely naked. I shoved Sean off and quickly grabbed a towel to cover myself. "Sorry, Mother, I didn't mean to offend you." Sean lowered his gaze. "It's just that I died in a bathtub, so I guess that's where I ended up after crossing over." Died in a bathtub. My back stiffened. Yes, at the end of Warm Sunlight, the male lead dies in a bathtub full of formaldehyde, killed by a psychopathic villain while trying to protect the heroine. It's a horror thriller I wrote. And I only named the novel Warm Sunlight as a bit of a sick joke. The heroine's name is Nora. The hero is Sean. So at first glance, readers expect a healing, heartwarming story. Only at the end do they realize it's actually a tale where every bit of goodness gets shattered. Ethan once lectured me about it. Readers want justice to triumph, for good people to save the villain. But you actually let the villain torture the hero to death, and left the heroine in despair. Sophie, are you some kind of sociopath? Have you thought about what kind of consequences writing like this will have? The result? Warm Sunlight has the most comments out of all my novels, because everyone was raging at me. How twisted do you have to be to write something so messed up? The villain is disgusting. I literally felt sick reading it. Morally bankrupt. Reported. For a long time, I couldn't bring myself to check the comments at all. After years of writing sweet romances, this was my first attempt at a thriller. My greatest dream in life has always been to create a truly outstanding villain. Eternally evil, eternally twisted, with no emotions and no weaknesses, impossible to redeem, uninterested in being saved, living off death, keeping company with corpses. Cruel and powerful. Those ordinary villains who turn good at the drop of a hat are just boring. They don't count as outstanding in my book. You really have a unique definition of outstanding. Look around. Barely anyone likes your so-called great villain. Most readers can't stand him. Ethan mocked. "Even if the whole world hates my villain, I'll still love him unconditionally." I said, stubborn to the end. "Save that cringe for someone else," Ethan scoffed. "You need to learn to compromise with reality. Writing isn't just your hobby, it's your livelihood now. If you want to make money, you have to give readers what they want, not just do whatever you please. Stories like Warm Sunlight have no market. You need to learn from your failures and stop giving these psycho villains so much attention." Failure. All those countless nights, all the blood, sweat, and tears I poured into this novel. He just called it a failure. Well, he wasn't wrong. Hardly anyone read it. And the reviews were terrible. In the whole world, only I cared about this story. But I just couldn't accept that. It just didn't feel fair. So, staring straight at Ethan, I said, "Let's break up." He froze. "You want to break up over something this trivial?" It's not trivial at all. It's a dream. That's why I broke up with Ethan. After years of dating, every time I brought up my hopes or dreams, his first instinct was always to shoot them down. I said that one day, if I had the money, I'd buy an RV and travel the world. He said I was living in a fantasy. I said I wanted to be the queen of thrillers, like Stephen King. He said I'd be better off sticking to the RV dream. Whenever I finished a new story, I'd look forward to Ethan's thoughts, hoping for his support. But all I ever got was a stern list of what was illogical, what was problematic, what was morally bankrupt. He'd tear my work to shreds, until my confidence was left in tatters. Readers, editors, even myself, can all criticize my writing. But from him, from the person I loved most, all I wanted was unconditional support. It's a shame, really. He just never cared about or understood my dream. In fact, the villain from Warm Sunlight had already taken shape in my mind long before I started writing for a living. I'd polished and reimagined him for years before finally bringing him to life in a story. As for the male lead, he was really just there to set off the villain, basically cannon fodder. Because I was so focused on crafting the villain, I barely paid any attention to the hero. And now, this overlooked piece of cannon fodder had personally crossed into my world. I had a strong suspicion that Sean Hayes had come to claim my soul. After all, the one who truly killed him was me. So, the one time I dared to write something purely for myself, I not only broke up with my longtime boyfriend, but now the male lead from my book had come looking for revenge. What kind of cosmic retribution is this? Why do you even know I exist? I asked cautiously. After I died in the bathtub, a flood of information poured into my head. Suddenly I realized I was just a character in a novel, and that you're the writer who created my entire world. After a flash of white light, I ended up right in front of you. Sean's long eyelashes trembled slightly, his voice hoarse. Mother, it hurts so much. I'm so scared. A pang of guilt hit me, something I hadn't felt in a long time. I never imagined that the reckless stories I invented could actually bring real pain to my characters. For a moment, I felt a lump in my throat. Sean asked quietly, "So mother, is my ending really to die in the end?" I felt so guilty. My voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry. With a writer like me who loves villains more than heroes, Sean really was down on his luck. It's okay, mother. Sean quickly flashed me a bright smile. As the author, you have the right to write any ending you want. Besides, I'm just fine now, aren't I? You don't have to feel guilty. What a considerate main character. When I was designing Sean's personality, I made him a warm, caring little angel. Because the more beautiful and gentle the character, the more shocking their tragic death would be to readers. And now, this warm and gentle hero forgave me so easily for giving him such a sad fate. And to think, just a moment ago, I'd actually suspected he came for revenge. I felt even more apologetic, so I asked, Sean, do you have any wishes? I wanted to try making it up to him. Sean reached out, pulled me into his arms, and said softly, I want to be with you forever, mother. Be together? Does he mean what I think he means? Isn't he supposed to be madly in love with Nora? In my original plot, they were obsessed with each other, willing to go through hell and back. I felt awkward and quickly tried to change the subject. Could you stop calling me mother? It just feels weird to be called mom by a grown man. But you created me. To me, you're like God and my mother. Sean's tone was completely serious. Is that really necessary? I coughed awkwardly. It is, Sean said, snuggling even closer to me. I was only wrapped in a thin bath towel, and thinking about how I'd painstakingly written Sean to a tragic death, I forced myself not to push him away. After all, I owed him. That night, I spent a long time debating whether to tell Ethan about all this. Knowing Ethan, he'd probably either call a psych ward or just laugh in my face. See, I told you so. In the end, I told him nothing. So, Sean just started living at my place. Just as I was about to use my own money to buy Sean some daily necessities, he pulled a black credit card out of his suit pocket and grinned. Mother, I have this. No spending limit. Use it as much as you want. Oh, right. I always make my characters rich in my stories. It just makes writing plot twists so much easier. All it takes is a black credit card, and the male lead can take the heroine anywhere. Buy anything. I nervously took the card, grabbed Sean, and rushed to the mall. The moment I confirmed it actually worked, I nearly burst into tears of joy right there. All those years of writing, barely making any money, and suddenly a black card falls out of the sky. Totally worth it. I held the card with trembling hands and couldn't resist kissing it again and again. Sean leaned over, smiling playfully. I want a kiss too. Well, you're not money. What's there to kiss? But since he'd brought the black card, I couldn't just pretend he didn't exist. Steeling myself, I gave Sean a peck on the cheek, feeling a strange mix of embarrassment and resignation. In warm sunlight, Sean and Nora's love endured countless hardships. He never once thought about giving up. Even with death looming, he didn't feel fear. He only worried whether Nora had gotten to safety. As the formaldehyde filled his lungs, he closed his eyes, remembering how he and Nora first met when they were young. The smile on his lips was frozen in happiness, even as he died. He loved her so much. But the Sean in front of me now seemed to have completely forgotten about Nora. All his attention was on me. Sometimes he'd interlock fingers with me while shopping, sometimes kiss my forehead, sometimes hug me from behind, always calling me mother, but acting more like a boyfriend than anything else. It was just so weird. A few times, I tried to subtly bring up Nora's name, watching Sean's reaction. Nothing. Not even a blink. In the story, Nora died of heartbreak for him. Shouldn't he at least feel sad? How was this any different from some heartless player? I definitely didn't write him to be this callous and cold. After thinking it over and over, I decided I needed to have a proper talk with Sean Hayes, only to find him sitting at my computer, reading Warm Sunlight. My scalp tingled as I suddenly remembered in vivid detail how graphically and mercilessly I described Sean's murder. Not only did I write him to death, but I'd also coldly turned his corpse into a display specimen. Without thinking, I rushed over and slammed his laptop shut. Sean, clearly finished reading, looked up at me with an unreadable expression. My back went rigid. 1,000 possible reactions flashed through my mind. Maybe he'd hate me. Maybe he'd yell at me. Maybe he'd be like Ethan, calling me a psycho and telling me my worldview was warped, or just roast my writing and my prose. Maybe, in a fit of rage, he'd even try to get revenge. But instead, Sean reached out and gently touched my face, his eyes full of appreciation and delight. In a soft voice, he said, "So I came out of such an amazing story. Thank you, Mother. Your words and your passion gave me a soul, a new life. And because of that, the moment I gained consciousness, I fell in love with you." Fell in love with me? I was stunned and silent for a long moment. But nobody liked the book. Everyone said it was a failure. How could that be? It's because it was so successful that I was able to cross over and meet you. Sean held me tenderly, his voice gentle and melodious. To me, you're the most outstanding, perfect, and brilliant writer in the world. It felt so good to have someone who was actually willing to stand on my side. I looked up at him, warmth blooming in my chest. Those gentle eyes, that slight upward curve of his lips, his pale, slender fingers, and the clear, soft sound of his voice. He was the male lead I'd created, possessing every beautiful quality imaginable. In that moment, I let go of all my worries. Even if I couldn't give him a happy ending in the book, I'd do everything I could to make it up to him in real life. It didn't take long for me to come up with an idea. "Sean, how about my next novel? You and Nora get a second chance at life. She'll be a pampered heiress, you'll be a carefree rich kid. It'll be a truly warm, healing romance. I promise, sweet from start to finish, no villains causing trouble." Sean shook his head. "No need. Things are perfect right now. But I really want to make it up to you." I was a little anxious. Sean looked down at me, eyes burning. He leaned in, his breath brushing my lips, his palm tightening around my waist. "How about you make it up to me, like this?" He whispered in my ear, his voice soft as water. I stood there, frozen, wondering if this counted as incest. It wasn't until I heard the click of a camera that I snapped out of it. Sean had just taken a picture of us kissing and posted it to my social media story. He'd used my phone. At least let me add a filter first. I quickly snatched my phone back. No, that wasn't the main point. Ethan was still on my friends list. "Mother, did I embarrass you?" Sean looked a bit disappointed. "You don't want to admit you're with me in front of your friends, right?" I had been about to delete the story, but I stopped and smiled at him. "Of course not. Why would I ever feel embarrassed? Look, everyone's commenting to congratulate me on finding such a handsome new boyfriend." "Boyfriend?" Sean's hand tightened around my waist. "So, I'm already your boyfriend now?" My head was pounding. That very night, Ethan called. His voice was tight with anger. "Who's that guy? How did you meet? Why does he look so familiar?" "Well, duh. He's my own creation, the male lead from my book." I played it cool. "All good-looking guys look kind of alike, so it's not surprising you think he's familiar." What's his background? Have you checked him out? Ethan pressed. I know everything about him there is to know. Sophie, have you actually fallen for him? Ethan's tone softened. Ethan, we already broke up. I didn't answer his question. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I added, honestly, you don't have to worry about me anymore. Not long ago, I still thought we'd eventually get back together. But now, it seemed like everything had changed. And the leaking faucet in the bathroom? Sean had already fixed it. Ethan was silent on the other end for a long time. Long enough that I started yawning. Finally, he spoke. I'm just being a decent ex here, that's all. You always have such weird taste. Just don't end up dating some guy who hits you or something. I gritted my teeth. Don't worry, my boyfriend is a once-in-a-lifetime great guy. Sean was designed by me to be the absolute good guy. Even if his life was in danger, he'd never turn dark. Oh, by the way, I've been reading your stories these past few months. Your writing still needs a lot of work. Try improving your prose sometime. With that, Ethan hung up, not even giving me a chance to argue. That jerk. He really is the biggest villain in my life. Who are you talking to? Long arms reached out and wrapped around my waist. Sean had slipped into my room at some point and was lying beside me as if it were the most natural thing in the world. No one important. I could smell a faint trace of his body wash. Sean edged even closer, his breath warm against my neck. For some reason, I felt a little nervous, so I blurted out, Sean, I'm going shopping with my girlfriends this weekend. You'll be okay at home by yourself, right? Sean looked downcast. Can I come with you? Boyfriends aren't allowed at girls' day out. I cupped his face in my hands. I promise I'll be home early, okay? Sean nodded, his voice husky. Then, I want some compensation. I pretended not to get what he meant. How about I cook you a big meal tomorrow? Sean's breath grew heavy as he leaned in close to my lips. You're even more delicious. A righteous, sunshiny male lead, saying something that made my face burn with embarrassment. Now that I thought about it, Sean didn't have a single kissing scene in the whole novel. After writing so many fluffy romance stories before, I was long past the point of enjoying writing steamy scenes. So in warm sunlight, I focused entirely on all kinds of bizarre murder plots instead. Even though the hero and heroine never even kissed, the love between them was hotter than any physical intimacy. Maybe that's what made it so tragic. But now Sean was pinning me down, kissing me again and again. I was completely wrapped up in his heat, but inside I felt so troubled. Maybe Nora would suddenly appear one day, time traveling just like Sean, and slap me across the face. Bittersweet tragedy, huh? Why don't you try having some tragic romance for yourself? How dare you come between your own main couple, you shameless author? I couldn't help feeling guilty. Poor Nora, please don't hate your creator. I promise to send you an even more handsome and gentle CEO in my next story. That weekend, my two best friends, Maggie and Ellie, hounded me endlessly about my new boyfriend. After hesitating, I actually told them the truth. Sean Hayes had traveled from my novel into reality. They fell silent for a moment, then looked at me with grave seriousness. Writers really do have a tendency to go nuts, huh? Yep, I shouldn't have told anyone. In the end, it cost me a fancy steak dinner to keep them from dragging me off to a psychiatrist. When it came time to pay, I waved Sean's black credit card at them. Aren't you curious how I can afford this? Because Sean brought this card with him from the novel. But Sean shouldn't be able to use it, right? Did you forget? In all your stories, he's the only male lead with an average background, Maggie said, looking confused. Yeah, we used to tease you about that, remember? After writing so many rich CEOs, you finally gave us a normal guy, Ellie added. I froze. Miss, you signed the wrong name, the server reminded politely. The cardholder's name isn't Sean Hayes. All the other times we'd used the card, Sean had signed for it himself, so I'd never paid attention. A man who appeared out of thin air, an unlimited black credit card, a string of impossible events. My mind had been so dazzled that I missed all the clues I should have noticed right away. How could Sean Hayes, the brave hero of my story, sound so pitiful, saying he was hurt and afraid? How could Sean, who loved Nora more than anything, so quickly forget her and fall in love with me? How could Sean, the character I killed off, suddenly be given a soul just by my words and my passion? Unless he wasn't Sean Hayes at all. Then, who was he? With trembling hands, I picked up the pen and signed a different name. The server smiled. Payment successful. Thank you, and please come again. Without even taking the time to explain to my friends, I rushed straight home. There he was, the man I thought was Sean, standing in the kitchen, slicing a watermelon with a knife. His features were gentle as always, and he smiled softly at me. Chilled watermelon, your favorite. When he'd first appeared, he was wearing a high-end, custom-tailored suit with that black credit card in the pocket. He had an overwhelming aura, but knew exactly how to hide it, how to rein himself in. To get what he wanted, he could pretend to be gentle, pretend to be loving, pretend to be sunny. He could pretend to be anyone. Handsome, perfect, straight out of a novel. But being a character in my book didn't necessarily mean he was the hero. He could also be the villain, a psychopath. Silas, is that you? My voice shook as I called out his name. He didn't look even remotely surprised. No shock, no fear, no stiffness at being exposed. Nothing. He picked up a slice of watermelon, held it to my lips, and said gently, "Try it. It's really sweet." I instinctively took a few steps back and repeated, "You're Silas, aren't you?" His eyes glittered with a strange excitement. "You're right. My real name does sound much better." Even though I'd already guessed, hearing him admit it made my heart skip a beat. My knees gave out and I collapsed onto the floor. "What's wrong, Mother?" Silas calmly wiped the knife. "You're not scared of me, are you?" His tone was just as gentle as ever, but it made my skin crawl. "Why?" Silas looked at me, leaning down and hooking his finger under my chin. "Didn't you say you loved me the most?" I might have sometimes forgotten Sean's character traits, but every word about Silas was burned into my mind. Silas, he was the total opposite of warm sunlight. He was an orphan abandoned by his parents, a demon who'd crawled out of a pile of corpses, a monster addicted to murder, tortured until he became immortal. Every wound he ever suffered could heal on its own. He wandered the earth for centuries, killing just to keep himself entertained, fascinated by the expressions of people in their final moments. Then, with loving care, he turned their corpses into specimens. He built a huge secret room in a deserted place, filling it with glass cases holding bodies, victims from 100 years of murder, some with looks of terror, some with pain, some with sorrow, all forever frozen behind glass. He had no family, no friends, no lover. He lived year after year in darkness. Whenever he felt lonely, he'd lie among all those corpses and quietly hum a lullaby, the one he remembered his mother singing to him. Ethan tore into me for writing him like this. Where's the logic? Is that even reasonable? Why would he be immortal? Is it that easy to make and preserve a corpse specimen for 100 years? How could someone kill that many people and never get caught? Irresponsible? So what? In my novel, anything is possible. I shot back without hesitation, and right now, this illogical, impossible being was standing right in front of me. For all this time, the one hugging me and kissing me had been Silas. My heart, which had almost stopped, suddenly began to race again. Silas. He really was Silas. He was my hope, my dream, the character I poured all my love and passion into. We locked eyes. I asked, "Why did you pretend to be Sean?" Silas gave a soft smile. "Because it was fun." I froze. Fun? Just because it was fun? He said, "Coming to a different world. I needed to find a way to entertain myself." Silas looked almost disappointed. "Mother, as my creator, you shouldn't be fooled so easily. How could a dead body have the power to cross between worlds?" The real Sean was turned into a beautiful specimen by me a long time ago and put on display in a glass case. The excitement that had flared in my heart suddenly plummeted. Even though I had written these plotlines myself, this was the first time I'd truly felt bone-chilling cold. So the real Sean was already dead, killed by my own hand. I always imagined that when you found out who I really was, you'd be thrilled, so happy. Silas's gaze became unfocused, as if he was lost in his fantasy. You'd run to me, kiss me, scold me for not telling you sooner, thank the heavens for sending me to you. We'd hold each other tight and never be apart again. I stood frozen, not daring to move. "But Mother, why do you look so afraid right now?" Silas slowly closed in on me, his warm palm cupping my neck. "Or do you actually wish it was Sean who crossed over to you?" If I nodded, he'd snap my neck in an instant. Because that's the personality I gave Silas, twisted, violent, never willing to be ignored. And just because I created him doesn't mean he'd ever show me mercy. In that moment, I was no different from the countless throwaway characters in my novel. My life or death all depended on Silas's whim. Of course not. I forced a smile. The one I've wanted to see most, the one I love the most, has always been Silas. Silas's eyes curved, and he pulled me gently into his arms, whispering, "Good girl." I leaned into his embrace, using every ounce of strength to keep myself from trembling. Fear and anger. I wanted to slap him, curse him as the wretched monster he was. But if I wanted to survive, I had to swallow it all. A moment later, Maggie called, asking why I'd rushed home so suddenly. With Silas watching me tenderly, I forced myself to reply, "Nothing, my boyfriend just missed me." "You two are so lovey-dovey," Maggie teased. "Next time, you have to bring this new boyfriend out so we can meet him properly." "No way," I blurted out before I could stop myself. Silas was far too dangerous. I couldn't let him near anyone. "What's the matter? Embarrassed of me?" Silas asked with a smile, gently tucking a strand of my hair behind my ear. I immediately gave in and said to Maggie, "Fine, another day, I'll have him treat everyone to a meal." "Please," I begged in my heart, "pick up on my tone and just let this topic drop." Then it settled. "Next Friday, sushi," Maggie decided instantly. My heart sank. From that day on, I followed Silas everywhere he went. Whether he was eating, taking a walk, or even sleeping, I made sure he was always within my line of sight. One night, we lay facing each other in bed, staring in silence for a long time. He suddenly laughed. "Mother, are you worried I'll go out and kill someone?" Yes. Silas was a bloodthirsty maniac, addicted to murder. Back when I was writing, I let him kill as much as I wanted, never feeling any guilt, because I knew it was all fiction, none of it real. But now that Silas was here in the real world, I had to face a truly terrifying question. Would he actually kill people here too? If Silas killed in reality, wouldn't that make me the true culprit, the origin of all evil? He was more dangerous than a ticking time bomb, but I couldn't let him see that. I just snuggled closer and said, "No, silly. I just really love being around you." It was so forced, I almost wanted to bite my own tongue off. Silas wrapped an arm around my waist, leaned in, and gave my neck a gentle bite. What a coincidence. "I love sticking close to you too." My chest tightened. I was terrified he'd bite through my throat the very next second. But his touch was soft, almost ticklish, and soon my body relaxed. Just when I wondered if he'd take things further, Silas simply tucked me in. "Be good, get some sleep." I quietly let out a sigh of relief, buried my head under the covers, and whispered, "Good night." On the day we went to meet my friends, Silas wore a suit and looked dazzlingly handsome. I reminded him, "They don't believe in time travel, so I'll need to make up a fake identity for you. Let's say we met in the park while flying kites. Our kite strings got tangled up, and it was love at first sight, so naturally we got together. Even if it wasn't real, I wanted it to sound romantic." Silas whispered, "But I've never flown a kite before." Right? In the novel, I was always making him run around killing people, never letting him do normal things. I patted him absently. "I'll take you sometime." Silas's eyes lit up, and he wrapped his arms around me. "Okay." I hesitated for a long time before finally opening my mouth. "Silas, Maggie, and Ellie are my best friends. You can't even think about hurting them. Not even a little." Silas's eyes dimmed, and he looked genuinely wounded. "Mother, the only reason I want to meet your friends is because I love you. I want to know everything about you, to blend into your world as your boyfriend. This whole world is strange to me. Only you feel real. You're my one and only. I'd never hurt your friends." Still putting on that pitiful act, he made it sound like I was bullying him. To my surprise, throughout the entire meal, Silas behaved impeccably. Faced with Maggie and Ellie's relentless questions and teasing, he replied with perfect warmth and politeness. When I pushed aside food I didn't like, he ate it for me, naturally and without a word. Whenever I was busy chatting with my friends, he just smiled patiently at my side. If a crumb stuck to my lips, he would gently reach over and wipe it away for me. Maggie and Ellie kept whispering in my ear, "I command you two to get married right now. You dated Ethan for so many years, but when did he ever spoil you like this? All he ever did was complain about how we ordered too much food at restaurants. Congrats, Sophie, you finally landed a sweet boyfriend." As I laughed and deflected their teasing, Silas offered me a piece of dessert. "Mother, try this one. It's really good." The whole atmosphere froze. Maggie and Ellie's faces went rigid. I hurried to cover Silas's mouth and gave them an awkward smile. "It's a little inside joke, that nickname." By the end of the meal, my two friends were howling with laughter at my expense. As soon as we got home, I turned on Silas. Never call me mother in front of other people again. Silas looked innocent. But you are my mother. I was exhausted. You call me your mother and act like my boyfriend. Don't you think that's kind of messed up? Silas lazily curled his lips into a smile. Who cares if it's messed up? For the first time, I understood how Ethan must have felt, frustrated and helpless. Not long after, Silas dragged me out to the park for an afternoon of kite flying. The weather was perfect, and the grass was soft and green. I spread out a picnic blanket and started laying out all the snacks and drinks I'd packed. When I happened to look up, I saw Silas off in the distance, totally absorbed in flying the kite. For a moment, I was almost dazed. There were moments when he seemed just like an ordinary, harmless, handsome young man. He'd light up with a genuine smile when the kite took off, gaze seriously at it as it climbed higher, and when our eyes met, he'd wave at me like a kid. Unable to resist, I walked over to him and smiled. Is it really that fun? Silas nodded and said in a curious tone, You know, Mother, kite string may not look like much, but it could easily slice someone's throat. Clearly, I should never treat him like a normal person. I stuffed some bread in his mouth to shut him up. The park was crowded. Every time Silas called me Mother, I could feel people staring at us in surprise. At this point, though, I'd gone from embarrassed to completely numb. Silas leaned over and whispered in my ear, Want me to gouge out their eyes for staring? I jumped, immediately dragging Silas home. Silas, listen, this is the real world. You absolutely cannot kill anyone here. I repeated this over and over. This world isn't like a novel. Here, people are real, living, breathing human beings. In fiction, I can give you all sorts of ridiculous powers, but reality runs on laws and consequences. If you ever break the law, you'll be arrested. Silas placed my hand on his chest and smiled. But Mother, I'm alive and breathing too. I felt his strong, steady heartbeat. Silas, be good, okay? His eyes were full of affection. If I'm good, do I get a reward? My cheeks burned. I tiptoed up and gave him a quick kiss on the lips, heart pounding in my chest. Mother, you're adorable. Silas chuckled, his voice as soft as a feather. But that's not enough. So, it seemed I was the one getting ahead of myself. I got a bit flustered. Then, what do you want? Remember the first time we met? Silas's voice went a little hoarse. Mother, your body is beautiful. I froze. Even after sleeping in the same bed for so long, he'd never gone beyond hugging and kissing. I'd just assumed he wasn't interested in sex. After all, in the novel, Silas had no real emotions. Only killing got him excited. But apparently, he did have normal desires. Maybe that meant the psycho part of him could actually be overcome? Maybe he really could coexist peacefully with this world. But was I really willing to bet myself on curing him? When I wrote Warm Sunlight, I layered on every twisted trait I could think of, terrified he wouldn't be dark or broken enough. Now I was the one trying to take all that away. What a mess. What karma. While I was lost in this inner turmoil, Silas continued, So, I want to take a bath with you. Huh? Just a bath? Even though I created this man myself, I couldn't help but think, what the hell is wrong with him? Well, at least he didn't want anything more. Silas was incredibly attractive, but he was still a fictional character, and he kept calling me Mother. Every time we kissed, I was already overwhelmed. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to actually sleep with him. But taking a bath together, completely naked, really does take a lot of guts. I struggled with it for days before I finally forced myself to agree. For the sake of everyone's safety, for world peace, for the good of humanity, and of course, to atone for the mess I'd made. Silas was delighted. He immediately went to fill the tub, even prepping aromatherapy candles and fancy bath bombs. I sat stiffly on the bed, tense as if awaiting the end of the world, cold sweat breaking out in my palms. My mind ran wild with panic. Did I have belly fat? Were my breasts sagging? Silas looked like he'd stepped straight out of a novel, perfectly sculpted, while I, as a mere mortal, naturally had my fair share of imperfections. When I finally calmed down, I realized how ridiculous I was being. During my years with Ethan, I never cared about looking messy in front of him. But now, here I was, getting nervous and fluttery like some high school girl, all because of a bath. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and, to my surprise, found Ethan standing there. I blinked. Wow, I was just thinking about you. Ethan looked a little tired, his expression soft. Were you? What were you thinking? I didn't answer. My gaze dropped to the flowers in his hand. Are those for me? He nodded. You never used to bring me flowers, I said. Is it too late to make up for it now? Ethan offered the bouquet. Finally, he'd come to try and win me back. I fell silent and didn't reach for the flowers. Ethan looked at me and said, Sophie, all these years, I haven't been gentle enough or thoughtful enough. I know I've hurt you by being so logical and cold, but I really, really care about you. I thought that after so many years together, you'd just understand how I felt, but I forgot how sensitive you are. The reason I always nitpicked your work was because I wanted to push you to be better. After you broke up with me, I was angry at first. Angry that you could just throw away our years together so easily. Then I started to regret it, and every day I wanted to come and ask you to forgive me. But when you broke up with me, you were so determined, it made me lose confidence in ever trying to get back together. That is, until you got a new boyfriend. I know I'm being selfish and shameless, but I'd rather make a fool of myself than lose you completely. Sophie, whatever you've got going on with that guy, I'm begging you, give me one more chance. If you don't like something about me, I'll change. I'll change anything, please. I stared at him, stunned and speechless. Ethan pressed on, I know you must be confused right now. That's okay, let me help clear things up. We have so many years together, our families already approve, we're used to each other's presence. I really believe there's no one in this world who understands or fits you better than I do. Compared to a fleeting, impulsive new romance, what we have is deeper, stronger. Sophie, you're a smart and sensible adult. I know you'll make the right decision. Typical Ethan, analyzing the pros and cons with complete composure. I was just about to speak when Ethan interrupted. Don't answer yet. I can wait. He pushed the flowers into my arms and turned to leave. I watched his back as he walked away and sighed softly. Turning around, I saw Silas in a bathrobe, lazily leaning against the bedroom doorframe. I tried to laugh it off. He just showed up and started rambling about all sorts of things. What a weirdo, right? Haha. Silas didn't move from the doorway. So, are you going to pick him? Or me? Oh, great. I never thought I'd be living in a cheesy romance novel, forced to waver between the two leading men. But was Ethan really the first male lead, or was Silas? Pink roses are so ugly, Silas commented, eyeing the bouquet I held. They look much better dyed blood red. Right. This guy isn't the hero or the love rival, he's the villain. Quickly, I changed the subject. The bathwater should be ready, right? Do you still want me to join you? Silas looked away, sulking. Forget it. He was mad. Or more accurately, jealous. This dangerous villain, who could destroy the world in my story, was pouting because he was jealous. I ducked my head, secretly smiling. Silas really was warmer than I imagined. He still had some of the darkness from my book, but he felt much more human now. Curious, happy, jealous, even sulking. It seemed like he really did care about me. Over the next several days, I did my best to cheer him up. I cooked him elaborate meals, but ended up burning my arm with hot oil. Silas scolded me as he applied ointment, then banned me from the kitchen forever. I bought him all sorts of expensive gifts, but he had no interest in any of them. The only thing he kept was a cheap, handmade beaded bracelet. I even took him bungee jumping. You'd think a psycho villain would love the thrill, but when we got there, I was the one who nearly fainted from fear, practically collapsing into Silas's arms. So embarrassing. When we got home, I buried my face in a pillow and couldn't bring myself to look at him for a long time. Silas laughed. So the author who writes all those twisted stories is actually a total scaredy cat in real life? I huffed. A story is a story, real life is real life. Just because I like psycho villains in fiction doesn't mean I want one in my real life. Silas's smile faded. So, you really don't like me? I quickly shook my head. That's not what I mean, Silas said softly. It's fine. If you don't want me, you can kick me out anytime. I kept shaking my head. I'd never ask you to leave. Silas just gazed at me, silent. I answered in a hoarse voice. It means adults have to take responsibility for their mistakes. Silas paused for a few seconds, then smiled. What mistake? I leaned against him, not saying a word. Suddenly, all my emotions seemed to drain out of me. No more love, no more hate, no more sadness, no more fear. There was only one goal left in my mind: to kill him. Even if it meant dying with him, I had to kill him with my own hands. First, I slipped a lethal dose of sleeping pills into Silas's food. I watched with my own eyes as he swallowed every bite. The next morning, Silas woke up as if nothing had happened and greeted me with a gentle good morning kiss. I tried bleach, rat poison, bug spray, all of it. None of it worked. Just as I'd written in the novel, Silas couldn't be killed. I reread Warm Sunlight over and over, dug through every draft, every note, desperately searching for a way to kill him. But back then, obsessed with making him the ultimate villain, I never gave Silas a single weakness. I'd even written a side story where I softened his character, made him suffer a tragic death. But none of that had any effect on the Silas in front of me. From the moment he arrived in this world, no amount of editing or rewriting could change his fate. I sank into utter despair. There was no one I could turn to for help. If anyone else got involved, Silas would see right through it and kill them without hesitation. I had already caused so many innocent people to die because of him. I couldn't risk anyone else. During this time, Maggie and Ellie tried to invite me and Silas to dinner again, but I refused flat out. The thought that they could have ended up as victims on the news made me tremble all over. I deleted every photo and post about Silas from my phone and social media, scrubbing away any trace of his existence. Silas looked at me with concern. "Mother, you haven't seemed yourself lately. Want to go out for some fresh air?" Fresh air. That sparked an idea in my mind. "Silas, I have a wish." He smiled, clearly interested. "Tell me." "I want to travel around the world in an RV with someone I love." "That's a cute wish." Silas nodded and took my hand. "Let's make it come true." Soon, we set out on the road in a white RV. During the day, Silas drove, while I gazed out the window at the flowers, trees, streams, fields, windmills, and endless sky. When we found a beautiful spot, we'd stop and linger for hours. If we were hungry, we'd cook noodles, hot pot, or dumplings in the little kitchen, or just find a restaurant nearby. At night, Silas would park in a quiet open space, and we'd lie on the big bed inside, gazing at the stars through the skylight. Away from the city, the night sky sparkled with stars every night. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I'd hear strange animal calls outside and instinctively burrow into Silas's arms, letting him stroke my back and whisper soothing words in my ear. Every night I woke up every 2 hours, checking that Silas was still beside me before I could fall asleep again. One night after I woke, I saw that Silas was awake too, quietly watching me. "Why aren't you sleeping?" I asked. "I just want to look at you a little longer," he whispered, brushing his hand gently across my cheek. "Am I pretty?" I teased him with a smile. I'd never dared ask anyone that before, not even Ethan. I was always afraid of getting teased or rejected. "You're beautiful. The most beautiful. The best," Silas said firmly. Only he could compliment me so seriously. I snuggled closer. "Silas, want me to sing you to sleep?" He buried his head in my arms, his voice low. "Please." I stroked his hair and softly sang the lullaby from Warm Sunlight. "Baby, my baby, grow up strong. Mother's tears will water you. Baby, my baby, be good and kind. Mother will love you till the end of time. Baby, my baby, close your eyes. Mother will be waiting for you in her dreams." After a while, making sure Silas had fallen asleep, I quietly got up and took out the ropes I'd hidden earlier, tying down his wrists and ankles to the bed. That night, we were parked in a desolate open field, with no houses nearby and almost no passing cars. If something happened, no one would find out. It was the perfect time to do it. I poured 2 big containers of gasoline all over the bed, then pulled out a box of matches. Just as I was about to strike one, Silas slowly opened his eyes. "You're ruthless, Mother." He was calm, so calm that he might not have slept at all. "Killing all those innocent people makes you even more ruthless," I said. At that moment, there was no need to pretend anymore. "The bleach and bug spray tasted awful," Silas said, looking at me. "But since you gave them to me, I swallowed them all. Wasn't I good?" So he knew all along. "Too bad I never managed to poison you," I sneered. "Mother, why are you doing this to me?" Silas's voice turned pleading. "You asked me not to hurt Maggie and Ellie, and I didn't kill either of them. I even let Ethan live, even though I hate him and wanted to tear him apart. But I didn't touch him because I knew it would make you angry. I'm really trying to control myself. Killing is an addiction. It's hard to quit. But if you're with me, I know I can do it. Please, Mother, forgive me, help me, please. I wanted to help you, but you're beyond saving. In this world, you can't just apologize for murder and expect to be forgiven. You have to pay with your life. I gripped the match tight. I answered in a hoarse voice. It means adults have to take responsibility for their mistakes. Silas paused for a few seconds, then smiled. What mistake? I leaned against him, not saying a word. Suddenly, all my emotions seemed to drain out of me. No more love, no more hate, no more sadness, no more fear. There was only one goal left in my mind: to kill him. Even if it meant dying with him, I had to kill him with my own hands. First, I slipped a lethal dose of sleeping pills into Silas's food. I watched with my own eyes as he swallowed every bite. The next morning, Silas woke up as if nothing had happened and greeted me with a gentle good morning kiss. I tried bleach, rat poison, bug spray, all of it. None of it worked. Just as I'd written in the novel, Silas couldn't be killed. I reread Warm Sunlight over and over, dug through every draft, every note, desperately searching for a way to kill him. But back then, obsessed with making him the ultimate villain, I never gave Silas a single weakness. I'd even written a side story where I softened his character, made him suffer a tragic death, but none of that had any effect on the Silas in front of me. From the moment he arrived in this world, no amount of editing or rewriting could change his fate. I sank into utter despair. There was no one I could turn to for help. If anyone else got involved, Silas would see right through it and kill them without hesitation. I had already caused so many innocent people to die because of him. I couldn't risk anyone else. During this time, Maggie and Ellie tried to invite me and Silas to dinner again, but I refused flat out. The thought that they could have ended up as victims on the news made me tremble all over. I deleted every photo and post about Silas from my phone and social media, scrubbing away any trace of his existence. Silas looked at me with concern. Mother, you haven't seemed yourself lately. Want to go out for some fresh air? Fresh air. That sparked an idea in my mind. Silas, I have a wish. He smiled, clearly interested. Tell me, I want to travel around the world in an RV with someone I love. That's a cute wish. Silas nodded and took my hand. Let's make it come true. Soon, we set out on the road in a white RV. During the day, Silas drove, while I gazed out the window at the flowers, trees, streams, fields, windmills, and endless sky. When we found a beautiful spot, we'd stop and linger for hours. If we were hungry, we'd cook noodles, hot pot, or dumplings in the little kitchen, or just find a restaurant nearby. At night, Silas would park in a quiet open space, and we'd lie on the big bed inside, gazing at the stars through the skylight. Away from the city, the night sky sparkled with stars every night. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'd hear strange animal calls outside and instinctively burrow into Silas's arms, letting him stroke my back and whisper soothing words in my ear. Every night, I woke up every 2 hours, checking that Silas was still beside me before I could fall asleep again. One night, after I woke, I saw that Silas was awake too, quietly watching me. "Why aren't you sleeping?" I asked. "I just want to look at you a little longer," he whispered, brushing his hand gently across my cheek. "Am I pretty?" I teased him with a smile. I'd never dared ask anyone that before, not even Ethan. I was always afraid of getting teased or rejected. "You're beautiful, the most beautiful. The best," Silas said firmly. Only he could compliment me so seriously. I snuggled closer. "Silas, want me to sing you to sleep?" He buried his head in my arms, his voice low. "Please." I stroked his hair and softly sang the lullaby from Warm Sunlight. "Baby, my baby, grow up strong. Mother's tears will water you. Baby, my baby, be good and kind. Mother will love you till the end of time. Baby, my baby, close your eyes. Mother will be waiting for you in her dreams." After a while, making sure Silas had fallen asleep, I quietly got up and took out the ropes I'd hidden earlier, tying down his wrists and ankles to the bed. That night, we were parked in a desolate open field, with no houses nearby and almost no passing cars. If something happened, no one would find out. It was the perfect time to do it. I poured 2 big containers of gasoline all over the bed, then pulled out a box of matches. Just as I was about to strike one, Silas slowly opened his eyes. "You're ruthless, Mother." He was calm, so calm that he might not have slept at all. "Killing all those innocent people makes you even more ruthless," I said. At that moment, there was no need to pretend anymore. The bleach and bug spray tasted awful, Silas said, looking at me. But since you gave them to me, I swallowed them all. Wasn't I good? So he knew all along. Too bad I never managed to poison you, I sneered. Mother, why are you doing this to me? Silas's voice turned pleading. You asked me not to hurt Maggie and Ellie, and I didn't kill either of them. I even let Ethan live, even though I hate him and wanted to tear him apart. But I didn't touch him, because I knew it would make you angry. I'm really trying to control myself. Killing is an addiction. It's hard to quit. But if you're with me, I know I can do it. Please, Mother, forgive me. Help me, please. I wanted to help you, but you're beyond saving. In this world, you can't just apologize for murder and expect to be forgiven. You have to pay with your life. I gripped the match tight. But I love you. Silas reached out to touch me, but his arms were still tightly bound by the rope. The reason I pretended to be Sean at the beginning was because I wanted to approach you with a clean identity. After all, compared to a monster like me, you definitely prefer someone like Sean. And sure enough, when you found out who I really was, you were so scared you trembled, desperate to run away from me. But even so, I still can't help loving you. Whether you give me candy or poison, in this whole world, you're the only one I love. We stared into each other's eyes, his gaze gentle and full of sadness. But in my story, I set you up to never fall in love with anyone, I replied, utterly calm. If you haven't shaken off your murderous addict's nature, then, by the same logic, your lack of emotions should still be in effect. Silas paused. The sadness in his eyes faded away, replaced by an icy chill. Ah, you caught me. He smiled with that strange, crooked grin, like a naughty child caught playing a trick. You're no fun. This was the real Silas. All those confessions, the tenderness, the sweet moments, they were all an act. From beginning to end, not a single word had been true. I didn't hesitate. I struck a match. Silas looked perfectly at ease. You really think this will burn me to death? I have to try. I tossed the match onto the bed. Flames raced over him in an instant. Through the fire, Silas looked at me and waved with a smile. See you in a bit. Before the flames could devour the whole RV, I got out, slammed the door, and locked it tight. I stood blankly on the open ground, watching the fire rage for 3 whole hours. From the front of the RV to the back, black smoke endlessly billowing upward. Only when the sky began to lighten and the fire finally started to die down did I move at all. All I heard was the crackling of flames, the howl of the wind, and the groaning of warped metal. I stared at the door, frozen in place. I don't know how long I waited. When the last ember finally faded, I was just about to breathe a sigh of relief, when the burnt, half-collapsed door suddenly shook, then crashed to the ground with a bang. First, a charred arm stretched out, then a head that was no longer recognizable. His entire body was burned beyond recognition, like a rotten, living corpse. Crawling inch by inch, he dragged himself out of the wreckage and collapsed onto the hard ground. Then, slowly, he started crawling toward me. I staggered backward, but my legs suddenly went numb, and I fell to the ground. Silas grabbed my ankle and, dragging his burnt body, climbed right on top of me. Mother, it hurts so much, he whimpered from deep in his throat. That once stunning face was now nothing but a bloody mess, giving off the stench of burnt flesh. I shoved him off in panic, trying to crawl away, but he grabbed my hair from behind and yanked me down again, pinning me to the ground. So that pathetic crawling earlier was just for show. 3 hours in a raging fire hadn't actually drained his strength at all. Silas opened his hand, revealing the charred bracelet. His voice was pitiful. I tried so hard to protect it, but it broke anyway. I slapped his hand away and gritted my teeth. Why aren't you dead yet? Silas asked softly. Want to see me cry? I glared at him. Your character isn't supposed to cry. He shook his head. No, Mother. I can cry. I had no idea what he was planning. When the moment comes for us to part, I'll definitely shed tears. Silas's voice grew cold. Like, right now? That's when I noticed the knife in his other hand. Even though the blade was blackened by the fire, it was still sharp. The next moment, he stabbed straight at me. Instinctively, I raised my hand to block it. The blade pierced through my palm, sending a jolt of pain shooting through my whole body. Blood gushed out, dripping onto my face. This time, it's my turn to kill you. Silas grinned. If I hadn't blocked just in time, that knife would have gone into my eye, my forehead, or my temple. He really, truly wanted me dead. Before I could react, Silas yanked the knife out of my hand. Another wave of pain crashed over me, and I couldn't help crying out. "Does it hurt?" He gently stroked my face. "It's not even a fraction of what I've felt." Even though Silas couldn't die, I had still given him a normal person's sense of pain. But just now, trapped in the flames, he hadn't made a single sound. "So troublesome," Silas muttered, as if genuinely troubled. "I want to be with you every second of every day, but a whole corpse is just too hard to carry around. What should I do?" His gaze sharpened as he started using the tip of the knife to slowly cut open my clothes, as if drawing on a blank canvas, making thin, shallow cuts all over my exposed skin, not deep enough to kill, but enough for tiny streams of blood to ooze out. "What's easiest to carry? Your eyes, your heart, or should I cut your flesh off piece by piece and swallow it? I'll let you choose. What do you say?" Silas gently rubbed the blood oozing from my skin with his fingertips. My whole body ached. I forced myself to speak. "How pathetic." "What?" Silas was taken aback. "You and I, we're both pathetic," I said. "Stubborn, foolish, obsessed with creating a monster, now about to be killed by the very thing I made. Twisted, deranged, rejected by the world, the monster who would kill his own creator for abandoning him." "Oh." Silas's voice turned cold, and the knife suddenly plunged into my chest, carving out a chunk of flesh. I heard myself scream, a scream so sharp it seemed to freeze every nerve in my body. Silas picked up that bloody piece of meat, slowly put it in his mouth, chewed, and swallowed. Even tastier than I imagined, Silas sighed with pleasure. "How wonderful. Now you and I have truly become one." I was going to die. I was really going to die. I struggled, trying to crawl away, but I hadn't made it far before he grabbed me from behind and tightened his grip around my neck. "So, Mother," Silas whispered gently in my ear, his long fingers pressing against my throat. "Am I extraordinary enough for you now?" It felt like he was doing all this just to win my approval. I opened my mouth and squeezed out 2 words, "Go die." Silas curved his lips in a soft smile. "Ladies first." Suddenly, his grip tightened. In seconds, I was suffocating, too weak to even struggle. I went limp in his arms, my body fading. Just as my consciousness was about to vanish, he suddenly kissed me. The smell of charred flesh and blood invaded my mouth, his kiss violent, biting, and desperate. The hand strangling my neck slowly loosened. I instinctively opened my mouth to gasp for air, and his tongue immediately dove in deeper, his palm pressing hard against the back of my head, leaving me nowhere to escape. In a burst of desperation, I bit down on his tongue as hard as I could. He just laughed low in his throat, completely unfazed by pain, and kissed me even more fiercely, pinning me down with his whole body. "Sophie." Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out not far away. It was Ethan. Silas froze for a moment, giving me a chance to gasp for breath. I broke free from his hold and scrambled desperately toward Ethan. Stumbling into his arms, I saw the shock in Ethan's eyes. He caught me quickly, taking off his coat and draping it over me, his voice shaking. "What happened to you? Why are you covered in wounds? Who was that burnt man? Did he hurt you?" I was too weak to answer, my body trembling uncontrollably. "I haven't been able to reach you for days. I was so worried, so I checked your phone's location. When I saw you getting further and further away, I knew something was wrong and drove here. Thank God I did. How did you get hurt like this? You have to go to the hospital." Ethan hugged me tight, trying to get me into his car, but I didn't move. If I just left with Ethan, and left a more twisted Silas behind, wouldn't that mean even more people would die? I hurriedly shoved Ethan toward his car, my voice shaking. "I can't go. I have to kill him. If I don't kill him, it'll never end. Even if I die, I deserve it." "But you're different, Ethan. This has nothing to do with you. You can't get dragged into this. Please, don't worry about me. Just go now." Ethan grabbed my wrist. "Sophie, what are you talking about? Who do you have to kill? Who is that man?" "Silas," I choked out. "His Silas." Ethan's expression froze as realization dawned on him. But just as he opened his mouth, something heavy smashed into the back of his head. He collapsed straight to the ground, unconscious. "Reunion scenes are so disgusting," Silas sneered, raising his knife to stab Ethan. "No," I screamed, throwing myself over Ethan and blocking the blade with my back. The pain shot straight to my bones. Silas pulled the knife out, then grabbed my hair again, and dragged me away from Ethan. "So, you like him more, is that it?" His voice was flat, emotionless. Of course, I glared up at him, Who would like a freak like you? The thing I regret most in my life is ever creating you. You destroyed my peace, forced me to carry the blame for so many deaths, dragged me down into hell. I should have had you torn to pieces in my novel, burned you to ash. You think you really beat Sean? No, even after death, Sean had people who loved him, Nora, his family, his friends. But you had nothing, not from the start. Even the mother who sang you lullabies abandoned you in a pile of corpses. That's the fate I gave you, born to bring disaster, unworthy of love, of family. It's a joke, you call me mother, but who would want to be your mother? I'd rather choose Ethan or Sean or any stranger in the world over you. The main characters in the novel reject you. The readers in reality despise you. No matter which world, you'll always be a monster nobody loves. Silas listened to my outburst without a word. He pressed the knife to my throat, pricking the skin, just a little more pressure, and I'd die instantly. In my story, every time Silas killed, he was swift and decisive. Once the killing urge struck, he never hesitated. But at that moment, his hands were trembling. They kept trembling, so much so that I managed to snatch the knife from his hand. Silas's palm rested gently against my neck, but I gripped the knife and stabbed him on instinct. The feeling of the blade piercing through flesh and blood left my mind blank for a second. I thought the hand on my neck would tighten, that he would just snap my throat right then. But instead, it felt like he was just softly caressing me. I snapped back to reality and realized that the knife in my hand was buried straight into Silas's heart. He could have easily dodged it. Why didn't he? Was it because he knew he couldn't die, so he didn't bother? Blood was pouring from Silas's wound, running down the handle and dripping into the dirt. No, that wasn't right. He was supposed to be immortal. He shouldn't be bleeding so much. I looked at him in confusion and saw that his charred skin was peeling away rapidly. Every inch of his body started to rot and decay, and the deep pupils in his eyes became two empty black holes. Bright red liquid flowed from his eye sockets, and I couldn't tell if it was blood or tears. How could this be? I murmured. You're supposed to heal on your own. God said he regretted creating me. Silas smiled faintly. So I lost my reason to exist. I was stunned. So this was all it took to kill Silas. Just like that, all the hatred burning in me was extinguished in an instant. My grip on the knife loosened, and I slumped to the ground, feeling all my strength leave my body. Silas knelt in front of me, resting his head gently on my shoulder. Back then, I could feel it. Feel what? I turned to look at him. Your love, he whispered. My love? You once said you would love me unconditionally. Silas raised his hand as if to hug me, but his arm fell weakly back down. For a very, very long time, I was all alone. I was used to it. But that day, when I was curled up in the darkness as always, suddenly I heard your voice. From another world, you spoke with such certainty, like a loving mother, promising that even if the whole world hated me, you would love me no matter what. Because of that, I gained self-awareness. Even when I realized I was just a character in a novel, even when my entire world was overturned. As long as I had my creator's favor, I could accept anything. Someone as twisted and broken as me, yet you loved me unconditionally. My creator, my God, my mother, the moment I heard your voice, my soul, my whole life was given meaning. I was so desperately eager to meet you that I tried countless ways, using my immortal body to experience death after death. Suffocation, burning, being crushed, drowning. I healed from the wounds, but the pain was always real. Still, if it meant meeting you, being ground to dust would have been worth it. Finally, I succeeded and crossed over, but when I really stood before you, you didn't want me. You abandoned me without hesitation. Liar. You promised. His voice grew weaker and weaker. I could feel his soul slowly fading away. The soul I had once given him with my own hands. Now, I was the one to take it away. I thought the wounds on my body hurt enough, but the pain in my chest was even worse. In the middle of that excruciating pain, I suddenly remembered just how much I had once loved him. Before he ever crossed over into my world, before I ever started writing for a living, before I met Ethan, the very first time I wrote the name Silas, I numbly looked at Silas, wanting to take one last look at his face. But his features had been burned away, nothing left to recognize. Silas, you were my dream, I whispered, my throat raw. But this is the real world. Deep down, I always carried so much darkness inside. That's why I was desperate to create a powerful and twisted character, to fight against the real world for me. But in the end, I was just an ordinary, powerless person. When the dream ends, I have to wake up and face reality. Silas, my Silas. I can't. I shouldn't. I don't dare stand on your side. Reality is so boring, Silas sighed. But I love the you in this world. Still lying to me at a time like this? I managed a bitter smile. Ah, caught again, Silas laughed too. His low, mischievous laugh, still so gentle. Not far away, Ethan finally regained consciousness and got up from the ground, running toward me. That was who I should have chosen all along. The right, real person from this world. I lowered my head, wanting to hug Silas one last time. But his body had already completely disappeared. Charred skin, decaying flesh, the tears that dripped from his empty eyes. All of it turned to air. I reached out and grabbed nothing but emptiness. If this chapter moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Nova Media. Thanks for listening.